Elias Kereithi walked out of prison with a new hunger. He walked out with a plan. Just a month after his release, on June 16, 2017, Sniper made his next move. He and a partner stormed an M-Pesa shop at Mudavadi Market. It was close to where he had once operated. It was quick, it was loud, and it was reckless. But that night plan failed. As they tried to flee back to Majengo slums, gunfire cut through the air. His friend fell to the bullets. Sniper survived, but barely. For a moment, the weight of what had almost happened hit him. Surviving that night taught him something he could not ignore. It was time to change. He pulled his operation back to Kamakwa, the place of his childhood, the place he knew better than any other, a place where he could shape the story and bend the rules. There, while still keeping a connection to Majengo, he began to recruit. He picked men he trusted. He had learned in prison that true strength came from who you knew. So he built ties with men he could make things happen. He paid attention to those who knew how to hide, how to move, and how to vanish when danger came. Soon, his group began to work with rogue police officers. These were officers who would tip them off, officers who would look the other way, officers who could help them slip from the scene when the heat was on. Kamakwa started to change in 2018. Robberies in the streets spiked. People woke to a new kind of fear. Whispers began that a dangerous new player controlled the night. The reign of terror had started. By February 20th, 2018, the community had had enough. At 5 in the morning, 2 members of Sniper's crew were caught trying to rob a woman walking to work. This time the locals acted before the police arrived. They lynched the 2 men to death. Their death sent a message. But Sniper always seemed to slip away. To many people, it felt like a trick of the dark. He vanished into thin air and the name Sniper spread like a cold wind across the region. Police were now forced to admit something the people already knew. Someone was bringing crime into Kamakwa. Someone was operating with brazen violence. And that someone was Elias Kereithi, the man the streets called Sniper.
2 thugs have been reached and they have been removed to Nyeri Provincial General Hospital mortuary for post-mortem. There was an identity card which was corrected at the scene, and there is reading of somebody from Kuisero in Western Kenya, and we are going to pursue that, the one who has disappeared.
Angry about the death of his men, Sniper decided to arm himself. He bought a firearm and he made a promise to act without mercy. 2 weeks later, in early March, he returned and tracked down 2 civilians who were said to have taken part in lynching. Both men were shot dead. This was not only an act of revenge, it was a warning. From that moment, his focus shifted. No more petty theft, no more small robberies. Now he wanted cash. He believed carjackings were safer and more profitable. In April, he launched a carjacking campaign, one incident after another. People lost their cars and their peace of mind. And then on April 28th, a message on social media changed everything. A frightened man wrote about his night of terror. He said he had been carjacked while dropping a friend in Muthaiga. He described being driven to Chania River Bridge near Ihururu. He said they had been terrorized for 3 hours. They had lost their valuables, and he claimed one of his female friends had been raped. The post named local leaders and pleaded for help. It painted a picture of brazen criminals operating with confidence while the police stood helpless. People were angry. They filled social media with demands and questions. Why were arrests not being made? Were some police officers working with the criminals? On the 1st of May 2018, 3 officers were transferred, a small sign that someone at the top was listening. But that action did not frighten Sniper. He changed his targets again and grew bolder. On July 3rd, 2018, at 3 in the afternoon, he and his team arrived at AIPCA church office in Nyeri. They pulled up in a vehicle. They carried an AK-47. They robbed the office and stole 1 million Kenyan shillings. It was Sunday's offertory money. The theft fed his anger. He had tasted a large sum and he wanted more. 2 days later, on July 6th, they attacked Simon Kahihia at his Golden Classic butchery. They hoped to take his daily earnings. But that robbery turned into murder. They shot him dead. The killing stunned the town. People were terrified and angry. The investigators began to close in. Their intelligence showed that the suspects came from Kamakwa. The police sought help from the area chief Peter Kamiti to reveal the identities of the attackers. This plea for help will cost the chief's life. On July 26, 2018, Chief Peter Kamiti met with security officials during the day. That evening, he walked to his maize farm. At 6 in the evening, the killers found him. They shot him 10 times. They used 2 AK-47 rifles and the attackers left in a vehicle and vanished into the night. The murder of the chief shocked leaders at the highest level. It forced action. On August 1st, the Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and the Inspector General Joseph Boynet visited the chief's family. They pledged to bring the killers to justice.
We will get each one of these people, wherever they are, we will get them. Uwezi kuwa chief wetu eti ucheze na sisi. Hii maneno uwezi kukubali. Nilisema hivi wananchi, si mumetuita kazi hapa, wakuwa chief wetu, sio? Haya mtu asipige nduru, mumetuita kazi.
2 days later, officers enforced a curfew at Majengo slums in a bid to flush out the gang. One man was caught, but Sniper and the others escaped to a hidden place. On August 21st, they targeted Speaker John Kagushia's home. They planned to rob him, but the MP was away in Nairobi for a television interview. They missed their target.
Alafu baadaye nikiwa nimelala ndiye akarudi kwa gari, alafu akaondoka.
Ilikuwa kama muda wa saa.
Ilikuwa saa 7.
Pengine uliweza kuona namba ya hiyo gari?
Okay. Hiyo gari haikuwa na namba za mbele haikuwa nazo, lakini za nyuma ilikuwa nazo. Niliona tu za kwanza KCF. Ilikuwa Honda Airwave, lakini ilikuwa shafu. So niliona nikiwa nimelala tu niliona amerudi kwa gari, nilifanya kushungulia, nikaona namba kama KCF hivi. Lakini iliondoka kama imezima mataa. Iliondoka mataa ikiwa off.
After the failed attempt, 3 of Sniper's men moved to hide at Kanyagias near Muiga. They posed as farm workers, but locals grew suspicious. On September 5th, the locals ambushed and killed those 3. They recovered an AK-47 and 9 bullets that were linked to the chief's murder.
Suspected gangsters were this morning shot dead by police in Kanyagia area of Nyeri County. An AK-47 rifle believed to have been used in the murder of Kamakwa location chief Peter Kimiti in July this year was recovered together with 9 rounds of ammunition. The incident happens after CS Matiang'i ordered a security operation to flush out criminals in Nyeri. Among those killed, according to the police, include a criminal who was involved in the murder of the chief.
The deaths of his accomplices forced Sniper deeper underground. With his crew scattered and the heat rising, he went into hiding. The police turned their attention to other suspects and asked many to surrender. On October 22nd, 2 men gave themselves up. They were Gethenji, also called Mrefu, and Kang'ethe. They wanted to assist the investigation. Their surrender enraged Sniper. He saw betrayal and he decided to make an example. He planned the death of Mrefu. Men who posed as police picked him up at his shop and then strangled him. They stuffed his body in a sack and threw it at Kariadam. On November 30th, his body was recovered. Mrefu's wife mourned him. She was told that police had taken him from his shop. The truth was much darker. His body in the dam was a warning to anyone who would talk. This murder made clear the rules of Sniper's world. If you help the police, you will die. And if you crossed him, you will disappear. By the end of the year, Sniper's name was feared across Nyeri and beyond. He had built an image of power and cruelty. He had shown that he could strike at anyone and vanish without a trace. But every rain has a price. His violence had attracted the highest attention of the state. The deaths, the brazen robberies, and the murder of the chief had pushed top security leaders to act. Some of his men were dead, some had surrendered, some were missing. Sniper remained free but not safe. He had enemies on the streets and enemies inside the force. He had made powerful people his target. He had forced the law to move in ways it had not before. This is where our story stands now. A man who began as a small thief became a haunted figure. He ruled by fear and punished those who betrayed him. He made his home a battlefield and left a trail of grief. In the next episode, we will follow how the state responded. We will show how top security officers pressured the investigation. We will show how the net finally closed in. Part 3 will reveal how Sniper's empire began to crumble. It will tell how his move grew riskier and how betrayal and fate finally reached him. If you want to see how this ends, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Part 3 is coming. Do not miss the conclusion of this story.